Welcome to another episode of the Trees and Lines podcast. This episode, we're going to be talking to Stan Vera-Art and John Kalthoff. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, very good.
Very good.
John is from Corteva.
Yes.
And Stan, I think well known as Grow with Trees. So appreciate your guys being with us.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
Great
us.
to have you.
So, we're going to talk today a little bit about the Right-of-Way certification, biodiversity certification program that you guys have been working on. So let me just open it up. Maybe first, if you want to tell us something about yourself, and then let's start talking about this idea that you have.
My name is John Kalthoff, and I live in Indianapolis, work for Corteva. I'm a heritage Dow chemical guy, so I've been working for Dow and Dow Agriscience for about 30 years, and I manage a product portfolio of herbicides that are used in Rights-of-Way and vegetation management.
I'm Stan Vera-Art, originally from the Netherlands. Came to the US about over 25 years ago, and rolled into this industry as just most of us do, stumble across it by accident. And are very much a plant advocate for compatible species. So started Grow with Trees, and it's a company that consults and trains and focuses on the positive, on the compatible species, and the protection and the enhancements of them.
I always credit Stan with changing the way I think about things with one statement. Don't just think about what you're going to kill, think about what you can create in the at the same time. So I always appreciate that and always remember it.
Thank you.
So tell us about this program.
Yeah. What brought you guys together actually to create this initiative, and why now?
Both John and I are part of a task force. It's a task force that is that has members of a variety of background organizations in the industry, utilities, transportation, universities, consultants, chemical companies. A group of well-intended individuals that are looking at what's ahead of us, the road ahead of us. And we are asking ourselves the question if there is a need for a stewardship-driven accreditation, which is individual-based, where we provide a career path for those that work on right-of-ways on a daily basis and focus on everything from shrubs down. So not shrubs up, but shrubs down, and provide them with an environmental stewardship focus option of obtaining accreditation, and that's what the task force is currently looking at.
Yeah, that's right. I was invited to be on the task force. Corteva has been involved in various sustainability efforts over the last several years and decades, actually, if you go back to some of our selective herbicides that were involved, especially in trying to maintain compatible species, not just kill everything. So that's where I fit in.
So is this part of the Right-of-Way as Habitat Working Group? Did it come out of that?
They are involved, as is the UAA. As the American Petroleum Institute, as are a variety of other organizations that are all active with VM management on right-of-ways. And we're looking at just to see if this is a feasible approach and if there's an interest out there.
And initial, I assume you're getting pretty positive response?
Well, that's the first big step of the task force. Actually, is to measure, to do some market research to really get an understanding of how much pull is there in the industry for this kind of a certification, because it is a certification for individuals, and so it's raising the bar for individuals who would actually be doing vegetation management.
Yeah.
Is it the manager, the planner, the applicator, or all of the above?
Predominantly the applicators, mowers, those that do reclamation, and those that can actually create and make the habitat on the ground and provide them with a stewardship-driven career path and provide them with an opportunity to embrace that biodiversity component in the work that they do.
I see. So that's really the objective here, is to add a more formal understanding and a formal layer to this professional, so that gets, I don't want to say bled in, but inputted into the result, right?
That's right.
The lens is really what I feel the objective is.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Very interesting. Is there an accreditation out there of something maybe adjacent to what you guys are doing that you're using as a model to follow, or as a guide that say, okay, in order for them to roll this out at an individual level, they did it kind of this way, and we know it's going to take this much time for adoption, this much time to execute? Is there anything you're following, or is the task force very independently creating a path?
Well, one of the examples that's well known in the industry are certified arborists. When that was created, it was created from a recognition that we wanted to provide a career path for arborists and set certified arborists apart from the crowd, from other arborists, and provide that recognition and a career path. The industry was then successful to integrate that into RFPs and request for certified arborists on their system. So another thing that we're looking at as the task force is to see if there's interest from the utilities and see if they're willing to incorporate this into their RFPs. And similarly to a certified arborist, to then have a higher pay rate. So that also ties into a career path with the boots on the ground and the crew members. But we're currently about to start a feasibility study that was funded by the Right-of-Way Habitat Working Group, the UAA, and the American Petroleum Institute. And see if there is indeed a feasible
path forward.
The Right-of-Way Stewardship Council that Phil has been a champion of. Is this sort of in line with that? Is there a partnership opportunity to help incorporate that as part of accreditation, for the utilities to say, okay, as part of your program, you need to have so many people who are working on your system that are thinking from a practitioner's perspective and have that level? Is that too complicated to integrate?
I would say at this point, it's too early to say. Right now, the focus has been purely on the biodiversity aspect of it and a standalone kind of certification.
Got it.
But I would say down the road, who knows?
Who knows?
I would expect the Right-of-Way Steward Council would constantly be watching that, and I could see that becoming part of the standard.
Yep, and we are in conversations with the chairs of the Right-of-Way Stewardship Accreditation Council. Currently, in their standards, they have written in if one of the verifiers is training and education. But if that would be amended in the future at some point, as John was referring to, and write that into their standards, then that would be fantastic. But the accreditation is the Right-of-Way Stewardship Accreditation is program-based,
right?
And this is individual-based,
right?
Yep.
Can you, without getting into maybe too much detail, paint a picture of the rigor of such an accreditation from a time perspective, a commitment perspective? What is it going to roughly take for an individual to absorb the knowledge and prove that they can hold that to a standard? Oh boy.
That's
John,
a good
you're
one.
smiling.
Yes, I'm smiling. I'm smiling because the creation of the questions and the testing and the content is going to be really the fun part of putting this whole thing together.
Right.
It's not been done yet. We wanted to do the feasibility study before we got into the creation of the certification, but there are some of us who are very eager to make it very extensive. And there are others who I think on the task force who are maybe more cautious on making it too high of a hurdle to jump. So it's going to land in between there somewhere. We don't have.
You
that
guys are still fleshing out what is a practical way to do it. Right. I see.
Well, you're using the certification, ISA certification, as sort of a model, maybe. I remember the history of that, so it's not always readily accepted by everyone in the industry at first.
Right.
And I see the benefits to the applicator or the person being certified. distinguish themselves, and as you said, hopefully a better salary in the end. It is going to come with a cost to the companies that are adopting it. So what do you see as the benefits to them?
Mm-hmm. So this is something that we have a long-term view that with the elevation of the industry going more toward the acceptance and the push toward increased biodiversity, that it will elevate the entire industry. Just look at where we've come in the last 50 years in the acceptance and the change of how do we treat this land asset. This is another small step that will, we hope, become commonplace, and that the industry will bear that cost because of the long-term environmental benefits.
And in addition to that, Phil, and it's a good question, the biodiversity around the world is in severe decline. And companies are increasingly being asked the question, what do you do to protect and enhance biodiversity? And investors are also asking to report on that in their annual sustainability reports. So in order to report on improved biodiversity or an increase of species composition, you do need to have the manpower to actually implement and create and protect and enhance the biodiversity on the ground before you can report it. So we foresee an increasing need down the line where companies are more and more fulfilling that request to report on biodiversity. And that will also then be incentivize them to bear that cost now for that need that is increasingly becoming more apparent.
I can see it is an avenue to get us beyond the what am I going to kill to what can I create, because I see it. We talk about it a lot, but when it comes down to training, they're training about that tree that can reach the conductors, not the others. So,
John, I think you bring up an interesting. You made an interesting statement, and I think it's an important one. Everything is about timing. Time horizons matter, because and Stan and I have had some chats in the past offline about just how the world of capital intersects with the world of like mission and doing things a certain way. Given what's happening in the world, everything is expensive. Energy prices are expensive. There's a big sensitivity to what a ratepayer is going to pay. Inflation's off the charts. Like we're in this weird sort of time, and what is being sort of proposed, though important, necessary in addressing a real problem, there is that discussion and kind of juxtaposition around cost, right? It's like, hey, this is a great idea and it's necessary, but wait a minute, somebody has to pay for that, and it's going to filter down to the ratepayers. So, and that's not me saying it from a negative perspective. I'm just saying these are the realities of what you face. So I just thought it was an interesting statement when you said, look, we recognize that the horizon has to be this. This will get solved over time as economic factors change and balance. But I wanted to know from both of you how you plan to tackle that conversation when you sit in a room, when the task force sits in a room with utility executives and you're having this conversation. The money kind of has to come from somewhere. And is the idea that you're going to suggest, hey, listen, this is so important. We know it's an expense. What we're saying to you is pay for it here and we can try to take it out here. Like, how are you planning to address that conversation?
We see the long-term cost of doing biodiversity enhanced practices.
Yep.
Integrated vegetation management that we've been talking about for a long time is a long-term cost reducing methodology. By putting a certified person in place may increase the cost of that, but when you add it all up, it's actually a reducing cost by having chemically enhanced biological control underneath that power line in the long run. So the costs actually do go down in the long run, even with an added cost of a certified practitioner.
Right. We've talked the concept. We promote IVM as a best practice. We understand it as a standard. It's needed, but we're never quite there. I think there's a lot of opportunity left on the table. As you said, we've demonstrated in the long run, costs will come down, and to do it right. And this is a way to accelerate that process and to do it right.
Yeah, and depending on when this is being aired, I mean, it's September 2024 right now. We hope to have the feasibility survey go out in Q4 of this year. So if this is being aired somewhere in October or November, then that would be perfect timing.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Because there will be a reach out to all different members throughout the industry.
Yeah.
And if the feasibility study with the company that we contracted with and report back to us and say, hey, there is a case that we can make to create the certification, at that point we'll open up a fundraising. At that point we'll start bringing in additional knowledge and expertise to build that body of knowledge. So if this is something, if you're listening to this podcast and it has your interest, please reach out to the UAA or the Right-of-Way Habitat Working Group and express your interest, and be on the lookout for a survey that is coming out later this year.
Yeah.
John, obviously I just met you today for the first time. I can't say I know Stan very well, but I have had the opportunity and privilege to chat with him a little bit over the last year or so. At these type of events, and I think this idea is in good hands. I mean, very mission driven, very committed to what he thinks and has a great vision. So I'm excited to see how this thing progresses. We'd love to kind of have you on post survey results and just kind of track this thing through to see where it is in its life cycle, and certainly, like, we believe in biodiversity and supporting it. So if there's anything we can do to help support this progression, we'd love to help out. So
excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I encourage you. I like the idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and thank you for making time today. I know it wasn't too painful, but joking. We can cut that out.
Terrifying, Cash. Terrifying.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this episode of Trees and Lines, brought to you by Iapetus Holdings. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. If you have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or ideas for topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at treesandlines@iapetusllc.com. We'll chat with you soon.